Good morning. I'm coming to you from the state capitol grounds here in Columbia, South Carolina. We are at the African American Monument. I'm going to do this as its own little separate vlog because I think it kind of warrants it. There's enough to see and do here to make a little short one. So we're going to go learn some history right here. Let's go make some memories. Alright, and it says that this was dedicated to the people of South Carolina, and this is just the people who fundraised and everything else. The monument part right here. But what I want to show is I picked this up at one of the welcome centers when we came into South Carolina. I think it was when we were coming up 95 possibly from Georgia. But I found this. If you can find this brochure, it's very helpful, and I'll kind of explain why. Because when you come in here and you're looking at the monument has all these statues into the wall, the carvings and everything, which is awesome. And it says that this monument was dedicated in 2001. That's what it says right here. I don't know how well it's showing up. There we go. And when you come here, this is showing you these different rocks. These rocks are actually from the places they're from. This is from Senegal, and you follow it on the line here. Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and the Congo. So this is Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and the Congo. These are the actual stones that are from there. And then there's more statues on this side as well. And then this is basically the monument. And what I mean by that is it's just a small area, and it's beautiful. Ed Dwight was the sculptor here. It's just a beautiful monument. But in this brochure that I showed you, here, I'll explain why it's nice to pick this up, because this monument actually tells a story. So see, it tells you panel 1, the auction block. Alright, so back to the brochure here. This is panel 1. You can see here, and what panel 1 is panel 1 is about the auction block. It says this panel shows a typical auction block in Charleston where enslaved Africans were priced according to their skills and abilities, were sold in Charleston to the highest bidder. That's what this one's reflecting. Then you go over here to panel 2. This is the middle passage. It talks about the voyage from Africa to America, where the slaves were coming on the backs of slave ships over here. Then you got your panel 3, and it's talking about slave labor. It represents the slaves' experiences during South Carolina. A female rice planter, a male cotton picker holding a basket of cotton, an indigo worker, and a skilled carpenter here on the far right. So see, if you were looking at these, they're beautifully done, but you don't necessarily realize the story that they're telling in depth. I mean, you can kind of figure it out, but then we got panel 4 here, which is the resistance. Many slaves sought freedom at every opportunity. Here a group of slaves plans an escape, and you see they got tools to dig, and you can tell that they're underground because you see the lantern here. They're trying to figure out a way to dig a tunnel to get out. Then you got group of 5, the war between the states, also the Civil War. It talks about how the South Carolina Volunteers were the first all-black unit established by the Union cause. If you've seen the movie Glory, that's somewhat represented in this, where you have the people were fighting for their freedom, and rightfully so. Then you got your next one here, which is Emancipation panel. This is also known as panel 6. The emancipations after the Civil War, the North won, and the slaves were freed when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. So you see the people falling to their knees. They're so happy. They can't believe that they're finally free. Alright, so then picking up on the other side here is panel 7. When I say the slaves were freed, definitely that didn't mean that everybody had equal rights and were free. So this right here is talking about reconstruction to the present day, talking about how, as you can see here, the different amendments that were passed. 40 acres and a mule, the 15th Amendment, the black vote in 1868. Right here's a voting guy collecting votes. They're standing in line to place their votes for who they wanted to vote for. And it's just talking about the civil rights laws that were passed in 1868 here in South Carolina. Then on panel 8, the southern states' reaction to federal laws. Unfortunately, you see that it says here, you've got abridgment, lynching, segregation, Jim Crow laws. Unfortunately, the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, it's things that popped up, people that were resistant to the change that was happening. Then you got your next panel here, panel 9, which is the exodus north. Because of the KKK and all the Jim Crow laws and all the harassment, a lot of blacks left the South and went to northern areas. They ended up in cities like Chicago, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland. Buffalo, Rochester. They headed up that way to have a little bit more freedom and not feel like they were being harassed as much. And here you got your panel number 10, which is the education decision on desegregation of schools. This was the fight that was won to desegregate the schools. Brown versus Board of Education obviously is the most famous of those cases. Then you got panel 11, the March to Freedom. The panel represents many South Carolinians who fought for their civil rights. And you see how it's kind of cut off. It says, we deserve equal rights. And the signs are kind of cut off, freedom and equality. And they're marching to protest. Then you got panel 12, which is the panel illustrates African Americans' amazing progress and triumph over adversity in South Carolina, excelling in such prominent fields as business, education, sports, arts, and science. It says pictured from left to right, in case you didn't know who they were. This is Dizzy Gillespie. And you got Althea Gibson. You've got Mary McLeod Bethune. If you're from Florida, you've been to Florida, you've heard of Bethune-Cookman College. There's a lot of things named Bethune in Florida, and it's named after her. You've got Justice Ernest Finney. You've got Ronald McNair, who was a very famous astronaut with NASA. Unfortunately, his claim to fame, so to speak, was he was unfortunately one of the men that was on the Challenger when it exploded back in 1986. Then you've got Jesse Jackson, former presidential candidate, civil rights leader. You've got Joe Frazier. You can see Joe Frazier here with his boxing gloves on, his robe, and his boots, ready to go into the boxing. And then down here at the bottom, you've got Alex English, who's a very famous basketball player. Played a lot of his years I think most of his career, if not all of it, with the Denver Nuggets. So yeah, so this is just kind of an overview of this monument. Like I said, you can come in and look at this and still kind of understand what was going on, but having that little brochure definitely helps explain the process. So very cool experience. You learn a lot just in this little area outside the Capitol. Literally, it's right outside. This is the Capitol building right here behind the monument. Also here right outside the monument is this on the ground leading up to it. It looks like it's the shape of a boat. And when you look at the design, the pattern inside, it looks like there's people inside. So I guess this is supposed to maybe represent the slaves being brought here on a ship, because that's when you pick up on the left-hand side over here, that's where that story was that I started to read to you as we went across each panel. So that wraps up our quick visit here to the African American Monument on the grounds of the state capitol here in Columbia, South Carolina. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit of history. I know we did, and we enjoyed our time here. If you like this kind of video, give it that big thumbs up, hit that like button down below, leave us a comment. If you're subscribed to the channel, thanks for coming back and watching and sticking with us. If not, hit that subscribe button, join our family. Let's continue this thing to grow. All right guys, thanks for watching so much as always. We'll see you soon.